Well, as I reflect on the word nourish in our marriage, the qualities and actions that came to my mind, that Jana's commitment to love and to cherish, that makes me feel valued and treasured, like a baobei.
Hello and welcome to the Connect to Marriage podcast. I'm Jo and I'm your host for this episode. In each episode of the Connect to podcast, we tackle questions that couples ask about marriage, communication, conflict, and much, much more. So we hope you will keep tuning in to learn with us as you grow closer, deeper, and stronger in your marriage. Life is filled with ups and downs, and for married couples, the hope is that our spouse will be our greatest pillar of strength and support during such times, especially the down times. Recently, Focus on the Family Singapore conducted a marriage assessment, the Connect to Marriage assessment, and its preliminary findings from over 200, almost 300 couples, in fact, show that the trait of nourishing your spouse is one of the top factors that can make or break a marriage. Now, what does it really mean to nourish? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Whether it's navigating the good times or standing by each other through tough moments, supporting your spouse is key to building a strong, lasting bond. In this episode, we'll explore practical ways to show up for each other no matter what life throws your way. And I'm excited to welcome into our episode today our guests, Hong Leong and Jana, who have been married for 39 years, and I'm sure that's probably longer than some of you have lived. Well, Hong Leong is an engineer by background, but he has recently shifted his career to become an arborist. And we were just talking a little bit about what it means to be a tree doctor. And Jana has been a homemaker all this while, and now she's nurturing no longer her 3 children who are full-grown adults, but she's a grandma to 2 grandkids. They are also seasoned marriage mentors. And so welcome to the Connect 2 podcast, Hong Leong and Jana.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe you can share a little bit about yourselves, or maybe share a bit about each other.
Good afternoon, Jo, and all listening in. Thank you for having us. As we are introduced, I'm Hong Leong, and Jen and I are married 39 years. Time flies, and we love each other more than yesterday, truly. And love grows as we intentionally work on it. Our 3 working adult children, eldest Rachel and her husband, Gerald, followed by Ruben and Raphael, and the 2 grandchildren, Zachariah and Esther, are all under one roof with us now. My hours of work were very long in the past 30 plus years of my engineering career, with very little time at home. We have decided for Jana to stay home, and thankfully she did since we have our first. I enjoyed family, and it's always fun time at dinner table, playing back memories of our kids when they were little, and now of course with our 2 grandchildren. Jana never ran out of ideas cooking and feeding the family and kids with good food. And that's nourishing physically, that we always enjoy and are thankful for all these 30 plus years. So much so that Zach would squeeze into her busy kitchen occasionally to participate and help with food preparation. And you know what? Zach watches cooking shows in AFN and will share ideas and recipes from the show for Nana, as she calls Grandma Nana, and for her to try. Indeed, Jana has been and continues to be my greatest pillar of strength and support throughout the 39 years of our marriage, and still counting, both during challenging times as well as good times.
Good afternoon, Jo. To all listening in, I'm Jana. I've been a homemaker for 36 years. Oh, that's long. Since giving birth to our first child, Rachel. I have always wanted to be a homemaker, to create a home with feelings of love, care, warmth, and where memories are made, a home where my husband and children feel loved, comfortable, and wants to come home to. Hong Leong has always been my pillar of strength, especially when I'm discouraged, and I'm also quite a pessimistic person. But he always have an encouraging word to say, and that will brighten the whole situation. And he makes me laugh by making and saying silly things and doing silly things with me and telling me silly jokes. And we laughed off even at our own silliness as well. Hong Leong and I enjoy gardening and doing walks together. And we usually do our walks after dinner and giving ourselves a little treat with McDonald's ice cream. Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your lives and your relationship together. 39 years is really truly an accomplishment, especially in this day and age when so many things change. I'm sure it's not always been ups, right? But definitely there's been downs. And I think when we talk about the word nourish, and what does it mean to nourish our spouse? Hong Leong, you mentioned how Jana does it physically through food. I think that's a key element, especially for Singaporeans.
Yes.
And it's great the wife can cook or mom can cook, right? But if not, I don't
Absolutely,
know.
yes.
Yes.
Maybe McDonald's ice cream will do it. What are we really trying to target? What qualities or, what are the common behaviors or actions that we are trying to accomplish when we say nourish our spouse?
For me, when I think of the word nourish, what comes to my mind is giving healthy food to a person to grow strong and healthy, right? But what does it look like when we talk about nourish a relationship within the context of marriage? Which what we are talking about is about giving unconditional love, giving respect, acceptance, mutual admiration, and giving support to build a strong, lasting relationship. It's about meeting each other's needs, may it be physical, emotional, mental, or even spiritual. It means also giving and offering encouragement when your spouse feels down, showing appreciation for the effort made, creating an environment where both of us feel valued and understood. And that involves spending quality time together, listening, sharing dreams, fears, and challenges with one another. During our wedding, we all say our vows, and the marriage vow says we pledge our love and commitment for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do us part. Now, this reminds me especially that our marriage is a lifelong commitment to remain faithful, to remain devoted to each other, giving unconditional love and support for one another, especially during the ups and downs of life.
Well, as I reflect on the word nourish in our marriage, the qualities and actions that came to my mind, that Jana's commitment to love and to cherish, that makes me feel valued and treasured, like a baobei, I just sent my grandson for his Chinese tuition, and the grandma from the tutor's house came out and said, "Oh, baobei." And it's so lovely to feel being a baobei.
Precious, right?
Precious, yes. And of course, the open and honest communications about our personal needs, be it physical, emotional, and mental, to be transparent means also to allow each other into our deepest and innermost of us, our thoughts, emotions, fears, expectations, aspirations, and dreams, and vice versa, me to her. It's the qualities of mutual respect, acceptance, because each one of us are unique in our own special way. And of course, constantly appreciating in terms of giving, from expressing simple thank you for little acts of kindness to when deeper needs are met. I recall an incident, where Jana drove out from a car park and she had an accident and the car braced against a Mercedes-Benz. And as she rang me, on my end of the phone, I hear her panic.
Yes.
And so she asked me to come down immediately. So I rushed down within 10 minutes. I was there to just make sure, first thing first, that she is all right, to calm her fears and anxieties, and not to worry about the damage.
I really appreciate, because he's there for me, especially cars. I wouldn't know what to do, to report or what to do, during an accident. But he came down to make sure everything was okay. And he did not say, "Do you spoil my car or damage my car?" But the first thing he asked was, "Are you okay?" And that really touched my heart and assured me that my husband really cares for me.
This was like a shared car or your car?
I wouldn't want to say it's a shared car, but she holds the key.
Okay, are you a car lover kind of person?
I'm sort of, yes.
Because you're engineering, right?
Yeah.
So I can imagine, okay, so husbands who are listening to this, very, very important. If ever your wife drives, even if it's your car, ends up scratching it, whatever, crashing it, banging it, okay, what is the most important is the first thing you need to say to your wife to find out from her is, are you okay? Not, is the car okay?
Yes. Thank you.
The early years of marriage are filled with unique challenges and opportunities for growth. What happens after saying, "I do"? At the Connect to Just Married workshop, you will gain practical tools to work through differences and conflicts and learn ways to keep the romance alive. If you have been married for 5 years or less, this workshop is for you. Get more information at www.family.org.sg/C2JustMarried.
I guess, incidents like that, maybe even minor, even if it's a negative incident that has happened to one of you, in the good times, it's probably easy to nourish the relationship, right?
Yes.
I mean, you mentioned, Jana, that you both do gardening together, you go
Yes.
for walks together and have ice cream together. I mean, it sounds, it's like courtship time, right? When everything's nice and rosy. What happens if it's a time where it's really challenging and it's straining on you personally, and you may not even have the resources or be in the right frame of mind to be thinking about how to nourish your spouse. Did you ever have such a situation?
Yeah, sure. Life journeys takes us through ups and downs, and none of us are spared. One of the significant time of my life in the mid-40s, after working for that long, hard years, I decided to start a business, which grew successively over the following 10 years. And it was great 10 years in operating the business. Then the business took a steep downturn with loss of revenue and unforeseen expenses that depleted our financial reserves over the following 3 years, incurring huge debts that would result in insolvency. My personal liabilities became more than what I could bear, and personal bankruptcy looms. And the fear of foreclosure or repossession of our home while in the midst of financing children's uni education was devastating to me. The emotional and mental strain I experienced from the financial crisis led to fear, anxiety, and near depression. I wouldn't say it's totally remote from suicidal, but I decided not to entertain it. I never felt so beaten and helpless ever before. It was like walking through a long, dark tunnel without ability to see the light at the end of the tunnel. A nightmare, but I'm experiencing it in my waking moments. I wish I did not have to wake up to the daily nightmares. During that last 3 years of the business, I worked extremely hard, did all I knew and I could to try to turn the troubled business around. All this time, I did not share the financial challenges with Jana.
Did you know what was going on, Jana, all this while?
He did not really share, but I know he's not very much himself. For me, I was just like, it's one of those business troubles. But I didn't know that it was
So serious.
so serious that to the point that the business may have to close. So he did not let me know the total situation of the financial problem in the business.
So I guess in such a case where even if you wanted to continue to focus on nourishing your spouse, you think that all is as per normal. But this is quite out of the ordinary, because what you just described, Hong Leong, is rather extreme.
Yes, it was for us, Well, I didn't intend to share yet because I was still working on trying to salvage the business and intentionally as well to shelter her from the stress and anxiety that I'm already dealing with. It was just that. One thing we have in our marriage is this. In our marriage, it's the safe space and comfort for us to be open and honest about what we're going through. So I came to the point to tell myself that I have to prepare her and family for the rough ride ahead, which is a financial roller coaster. After I did what I could, consulted with family and good friends, how and ways to salvage the business, and realizing it's not going to work, now's the time to let Jana know. So I broke the news to her, and I remember telling her in really solemn tone, like, honey, the business is going down, and we have to sell our house and start all over again. That meant moving into rental 3-room apartment, even if we have to. I have to look for a job, knowing it is difficult at my age then, in the mid-50s, in the season of my life. And then there was silence in our room, and her then response was calm and most assuring. She said, it is okay. We have to, and I'm with you. And then we talked a little, and we agreed that we need to let the children know, because they are part of us, and how the financial crisis is going to impact them. Just so that we can all hang on together as a family, supporting one another, and ride through the roller coaster. Jana's assurance of enduring love, unwavering faith in me, is the strong support and pillar in that time of my life where circumstances were shifting beyond my control.
Yeah, obviously, Hong Leong, you live to tell today, but can you give us what happened? How did you at least successfully end up where you are today and able to share this story with us?
Firstly, our relationship as husband and wife, we have always communicate with one another. Our foundation of our marriage is, I guess, must be strong through daily communication, daily loving each other. In this relationship, that when we meet and hit a crisis, we are not like blaming each other for whatever had happened. I could have blamed him for what happened to your business.
Like, what did he do wrong?
What did you do wrong exactly? And why you didn't take care of your business? Why do you allow this to happen and cause a closure of the business? And it's not just a few $1,000s, it is millions, Your construction company is into millions. And I could have given him all that blames and get very angry with him and walk out.
Were you really that calm as what Hong Leong described when
Yes, because...
How did you do that? Wow.
Because I have always learned that my marriage is not based on money, big houses, or the branded stuff. My understanding of marriage is having a good relationship with my husband and with my children and having the family together. Even if the business go bust, I say, 没有鱼我们吃。没有 what 鱼我们吃什么？
没有饭吃粥，没鱼吃江鱼。
Okay, so in English is if there's no rice, eat porridge. If there's no fish,
we eat
fish.
we eat ikan bilis.
Okay.
We don't base on riches that makes our relationship happy. So that has always been my value. And actually, to be honest, my thoughts was, okay, maybe it's better to move to a smaller house because it's lesser to clean. I'm living in a landed property. There's so much things, so many.
I thought you were the pessimist. You said that sounds very optimistic at times like that.
No, so it was like, okay, to comfort myself, maybe I said, oh, now if you tell me to go back to a smaller place to stay, then I have a lesser place to clean and I have more time to myself.
Right.
That was how I took it. And actually, I'm surprised I was very calm. It's true, I was very calm because the focus of our marriage was never a big house, big car, a lot of money kind of thing.
That's absolutely true because wealth and money has never been our core conviction or value in our life. That defines our self-worth and was never part of our marriage.
Your marriage is based on,
It's based on,
Yeah, I think this is so key because I know it's been described, and despite, how women have become more independent and whatnot, but one thing we do look for or expect to receive from our spouse when we get married is some kind of security, right? And the security comes whether it's financial security that, you'll be taken care of to some extent. And I think despite, how successful women can be these days in career and all and independent, there is still this inner yearning for that. And it's really quite hard. Even if we start out that way and we say our vows, like what you reminded us of, but along the way, I mean, as you get successful and you get more comfortable and you have more luxuries in life and you've upgraded, it's kind of hard to be confronted with this and still be able to say it's not about all that.
It's true. I mean, after saying all that, I sat down and said, oh, what would people think now we downgrade and things like that? But to me is, people will say whatever they want to say, but for me it's like, I still have my marriage, I still have my children with me who understand the situation. And that we are walking through it together. We are not deserting each other because we are not happy about the whole situation, but we are still going through and walking together through this difficult crisis.
I can just imagine this would be all it needed was one different reaction from you, and it would have turned from a romantic rom-com into a tragedy,
Yes.
If you could boil it down to, what are the key tools that can ensure that if a couple arrives at that situation or that crisis point that you guys had, they will still remember that it's about our spouse, and putting our spouse number one, as what Jana has said, that, well, we might not have riches, we might not have rice or porridge or whatever fish, but we have each other, and as long as we have each other, it doesn't matter, we can go through it. What will really help couples to, when rubber meets the road, when we do hit that crisis point,
When all else fail, in this case, we're speaking in terms of material, financial issues, and it really boils down to, we just have one another to hold on to, and the confidence I have, even though I tried to keep the bad news from her, to protect her. I also sense a responsibility that she's part of me, she's in the team, and she needs to know what are the changes and impact that's to come. So it's important to have, first thing first, a common shared value. In this case, money and wealth is never part of our common shared value. And then open communication. And we always strive to do that, so that we let each other into our good times, when and how and who we are, as well as our bad times. The only support I can run to my wife. The banks don't want to lend me money anymore. The creditors come after me into my house.
Yeah.
And the newspapers wrote about this. And then your world just collapses in.
Yeah.
You literally need a shoulder to cry on. And it's nothing better than having your spouses. So that support, that strength that comes through still believing in who I am. You talk about women's sense of safety and security, and that trust that I can provide never wavered, actually. Although we don't know when is the next job coming for the next year or two.
Wow.
Actually, during that time, after I talked to her, coincidentally, I gave a leave to a stranger up to Orchard Road. He's an Indonesian man, and out of nowhere, he was relating to me a story about his wealthy friend, who quite similar situation. Maybe he's a lot more wealthy than me, and he lost his assets and home. And the family with the two sons walk out on him. And that gives me total confidence on the wife I have who stuck with me through thick and thin. And even walking out, it's a real thing, as well as having your spouse being with you can be equally real or even more real.
I think this is actually the real security that we should be looking for, not in how well my spouse or my husband can feed me, or what size, house he can buy me.
Or what brand.
But it's just like you said, the trust that we can rely on our spouse no matter what happens. And coming back, to this whole idea of nourishing your spouse, I can understand why now it makes or breaks a relationship, because if you didn't put in that investment in your early days and hold on to your shared values as you're talking about and constantly practicing that kind of open, transparent communication, even in the good times, right? I can imagine if you hit such a huge roadblock in life, it can truly cause the marriage to crumble.
Absolutely, yes.
But in many ways, if we have invested in nourishing our spouse, we reap the returns and the rewards of it. I mean, today, both of you are sitting in front of me, and it's obvious, very obvious, that you have a very strong, stable, secure home, family, and relationship together.
Yeah, we're grateful, we're thankful. Yes.
Well, before we run out of time, in each podcast, we would address a frequently asked question that couples have about marriage. And today's question is from a wife who says that her husband is suffering from depression and struggles to cope with his heavy emotions and with controlling his anger. I'm doing what I can to support him, but it's taking a toll on my own well-being because I feel so stressed all the time. How can I support him if I'm also crumbling inside? I don't know what is the issue, whether it's maybe stemming from a financial struggle as well. But Hong Leong, you did mention that you were also, close to depression or maybe even suicidal if you had entertained those thoughts. But what encouragement or practical advice can you give to a wife or a couple in such a situation?
Yeah, regardless of whatever the source or cause of the depression, I think first thing first, my heart goes to you out there who is the caregiver, especially for spouse who is suffering from and struggling to cope with the challenges of depression, emotions, and managing anger. So to the wife, supporting a spouse who is struggling with deep depression is undoubtedly one of the most challenging aspects of marriage, especially when you are feeling drained because you will be the prime caregiver. And in these situations, nourishing your spouse takes a deeper, more patient, and compassionate caregiving roles, unlike my situation. Yeah, because my situation is just one event and it passes. Now, remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. So set boundaries, seek professional help for both of you, and communicate openly about your needs. And set boundaries for your own well-being as well. We ought to know our own limits. While it's important to support and maintain emotional and mental health, you mustn't neglect your own well-being because it can lead to burnout faster than you might think, and which ultimately may hurt both you and your spouse. And set healthy boundaries around what you can give and ensure you're also nurturing your own needs. You're doing your best, and small steps towards nurturing your own well-being can make a world of difference for both of you and your spouse because you need to be the stronger of the two. Remember to take small steps to celebrate small wins. So when your spouse struggles with depression, progress is often slow and hard to see. Whenever there is a vital recovery, whatever sort, celebrate together. And these small victories will bring hope to the relationship. I know, not by experience, but I have loved ones who are in depression. Some of them went through years and tens of years. So recovery is a complex, long-term process. And it's okay to acknowledge that things may not always turn out as planned. To be realistic, it helps to reduce feelings of disappointment and frustration on yourself. I hope that helps, that little thought that I have.
How long was that period of crisis, or what do you call it?
Oh yeah, that's like in the long tunnel. I thought it was going to be like 1 to 3 years, but I wasn't really totally out until almost 10 years because those deep issues about conviction and conscience.
But like I said, the two of them, Hong Leong and Jana, are here, alive, kicking and smiling and doing well. I mean, so to the wife who is written in, take courage and have hope. This too shall pass. And so I hope that, whatever Hong Leong and Jana shared has been helpful to you, but also to all our other listeners. We do know that, as we talked about today and started off saying, that life has its ups and downs. But at the end of the day, if you have a spouse and if you have cherished your spouse, the rewards will come back to you. Yes. And even if all else fails, your spouse will be there for you. Before we wrap up for today, Hong Leong and Jana, do you have any maybe last word of encouragement or hope for our listeners?
Well, I like to say that love works for those who works on it intentionally.
And I would like to say that do not take each other for granted. Be grateful that we have each other. Nourish your marriage daily with acts of love and kindness, and that will help to build a strong, healthy, and growing relationship.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hong Leong and Jana, for sharing so authentically and giving us, an insight into your own journey and how you came out of it. Well, in each podcast, we do end off with a couple challenge for our couples to do and share with each other. So whether or not you're listening to this with your spouse, even if you're not, you can share it with your spouse. But here's your challenge for this episode. We talked about how nourishing your spouse, part of it is being grateful for your spouse. So will you think of a time when you felt grateful for what your spouse did, whether it was a good time or a bad time for you and for your relationship, but where you were really grateful for the way your spouse showed up or came around for you? And as you remember that, will you take just a few minutes to share that memory with your spouse and just to thank him or thank her? Well, we hope that today's episode uplifted and inspired you. Now, do share this podcast with a friend who could also benefit from it. And check out our marriage articles and resources for a stronger relationship at family.org.sg. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember to always take care of yourself and your spouse.